The following video is not made for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello to my subscribers, this is the TFangy coming to you with what will hopefully be a successful review. And tonight we're going to be taking a brief look at the Transformers Legacy United Core Class Energon Galvatron. So just like the original Energon Megatron figure, the version of Galvatron from the Transformers Energon series is a straight up repaint of the Energon version of Megatron, and that was the thing that happened in all three Unicron Trilogy cartoons. Is Megatron, after he would be injured in battle, towards the final group of episodes of a Unicron Trilogy cartoon, he would gain a power boost that would give him a brand new paint job, and he would change his name to Galvatron. Yet when he would upgrade from his previous body to a new body, he would change his name from Galvatron back to Megatron. And so it wasn't just the three Unicron Trilogy cartoons of Armada, Energon, and Cybertron. It was also Car Robots, which was the cartoon released before the Unicron Trilogy. It was the first Transformers cartoon show released in the 21st century, and those four Transformers cartoon series having Galvatron be a temporary upgrade, which was just a new paint job that Megatron would have. That was one of the reasons why for a long time Generation 1 Galvatron kind of took a back seat, and why there weren't too many action figures of Galvatron being released by Hasbro and Takara Tomy. Luckily, the trend ended when Galvatron became one of the main Decepticon villains of the fourth live-action Transformers film, Transformers Age of Extinction. But by the fifth film, The Last Night, he went back to calling himself Megatron again, so the trend of Galvatron being a temporary upgrade for Megatron is something that hasn't entirely ended, but at least there's a lot more recognition for Galvatron now than there was during the decade of the 2000s and the 2010s. So hopefully the decade of the 2020s will continue with Galvatron being a more fleshed out and well-liked character. And as you can see, Core Class Energon Galvatron here, he's not the only version of Galvatron from the Unicron Trilogy that's been released in Wave 4 of Legacy United. As you can see right over my shoulder, there's the Leader Class Armada Galvatron figure that was released in the same wave. So we got two Unicron Trilogy Megatron figures in this wave of Legacy United, so that's one thing I find enjoyable to see. But yes, with this figure's release, even though this is only a core class size, we've gotten we've gotten in one size class of Transformers figure, both the Armada and Energon versions of both Megatron and Galvatron. Still no announcement from Hasbro and Takara Tomy on completing the Unicron Trilogy versions of Megatron and Galvatron by releasing modern figures of the Cybertron versions of the Decepticon on Dictator. But if they do release a modern day action figure of Cybertron Galvatron, I do hope it's also in leader class size like the Armada figures were, instead of core class size like the Energon figures. And on that note, I think the Energon versions of Megatron and Galvatron are Hasbro and Takara Tomy's way of kind of acknowledging that Energon was, unfortunately, by most Transformers fans, it's been regarded as one of the worst Transformers cartoon shows ever made. It's right down at the bottom of the barrel, along with Transformers Beast Machines and Meshinima's Prime Wars Trilogy cartoons. So I think that's one of the reasons why the Energon versions of Galvatron and Megatron were made core class size. Here's core class Energon Megatron. This is just kind of a way to show that how unpopular Energon is compared to other Transformers cartoon series. But I do still hope that we will get a leader class sized version of Energon, Megatron, and Galvatron someday. Out of the three versions of Galvatron from the Unicron Trilogy, the version from Transformers Energon is the one that's most accurate to Generation 1 Galvatron, because the design of the robot mode was based on Generation 1 Galvatron, and because his paint job is mostly purple, he has the most accurate deco compared to Generation 1 Galvatron as well. Now, I don't have the original Energon Galvatron Leader Class action figure that was released back in 2005. I saw it at a Target store. My family and I were on a shopping trip one day, and I didn't have enough money to buy it, and that was the only time I saw the original Energon Galvatron figure. One thing that the original Energon Galvatron figure had is that his head crest was painted black on the figure, but in the Energon cartoon it was light blue, and so Hasbro and Takara Tomy for the new core class figure went with the cartoon accurate deco. So for those of you out there who still have the leader class Energon Galvatron action figure, and you've always wanted to see what it would look like if his black crown and horns were the light blue paint job from the Energon cartoon. The new Legacy United Core Class figure will give you that visual opportunity. But yeah, overall, it's for what it is being a repaint of the Core Class Energon Megatron figure, it's does a fairly good job of having a paint accurate deco. For the box art, we've got the spaceship mode, and unfortunately, the nose cone for Energon Galvatron is silver, but because Energon Megatron's paint job is mostly metallic, light metallic gray, the silver and light gray aren't that much of a difference, so the box art on Energon Galvatron isn't too different from Megatron, especially in jet mode. So there's that. Got the poster image on that side of the box. So here on the back you've got your product photos, you got robot mode, jet mode, and he transforms back and forth between both modes in 11 steps. So yeah, that's pretty much Energon Galvatron. The parts that were neon green on Megatron are now bright yellow here on Galvatron, and that's pretty much some of the main paint apps. The legs are almost the same, except some of the parts that are blue on Energon on Megatron are now black or silver on Galvatron. One thing I wish they would have done is that the original Energon Galvatron action figure, his fusion cannon was done in silvery plastic, and so I kind of wish they would have done the fusion cannon in silvery plastic, or at least painted it silvery plastic to make it look more accurate. But from what I can tell, looking at the product photo here on the box, it's the same unpainted black plastic used on Megatron's fusion cannon. And so that's one part that is not accurate to the paint job that he had in the Energon cartoon. But it's just a minor gripe from someone who's a die-hard Unicron Trilogy fan that I'm pointing that out. So without further delay, let's get Legacy United Core Class Energon Galvatron out of his box and take a close look at him in robot mode. Alright, and so here is Legacy United Core Class Energon Galvatron in his robot mode. And I apologize when I bring the figures too close to the lens on my camera, they start to become blurry. But yeah, I'm really impressed with the face sculpt that he has. His eyes are painted red, and again he has the cartoon accurate light blue crown, a three-horned crown on his head, which is really nice there. And all the parts that were green on Energon Megatron are now bright highlighter yellow on Energon Galvatron. They were made out of clear plastic on the original figure, and of course he has the same fusion cannon. The parts on Megatron that were light gray, such as the ones used on the torso, the torso is now purple instead. The parts that were blue are now black. And one paint deco Megatron has that Galvatron doesn't is that his ankles are painted while they're unpainted on Galvatron. So here's a size comparison with Energon Megatron. And I thought the fusion cannons were the same shade, color shade of plastic, but if you actually put them side by side, my camera is picking it up right there. Megatron's fusion cannon is actually a very dark charcoal gray, while Galvatron's is solid black. So technically, Energon Megatron, since he had the black fusion cannon and Galvatron's fusion cannon was originally silver, you could make these figures slightly more accurate to the original leader class figures that were released in the Energon line by swapping the fusion cannons between them. But it is rather nice there. All the light gray bits that were it's on Megatron are now dark gray on Galvatron, such as the nose cone, and of course the legs. It's a darker shade of gray used on Galvatron than it is compared to Megatron. So overall, it's a pretty fantastic repaint showing the paint job that Galvatron got when he upgraded into his final form for Transformers Energon. And yeah, pretty fun action figure to have. So let's get him transformed into his alt mode and wrap up the review. Alright, and so here is Energon Galvatron in his jet mode. And if you already have the Core Class Energon Megatron action figure, then the only new thing here is the paint job. Neat job. Again, unlike Megatron, who's mostly light silvery gray with dark blue and neon green highlights, Galvatron is now purple, light gray, and neon yellow highlights. Not much of a paint difference with the exception of the robot mode torso being purple and the wings also being purple now. But there are enough subtle differences that you can recognize them apart from each other. For instance, Megatron's cockpit is painted black. Has a black painted on the sides with blue on the nose cone, while Energon Galvatron the only paint job he has are the two side-mounted guns on the nose cone being painted red. But apart from a few subtle differences here and there, there's not much of a difference between the two of them. As far as which figure has the most paint apps, again, because Energon Megatron, his ankles have the blue paint around his feet, and Galvatron does not. Megatron has slightly more paint apps than Galvatron does. And because the cannons are now detachable, you can part swap them along with the fusion cannons if you want to mix and match Megatron and Galvatron's parts. One thing I will note is that the wings on Energon Galvatron, they don't. There's like a stopping point here on Energon Megatron where the wing doesn't want to go down all the way, but on Galvatron it'll go down with ease. So the wings on Galvatron are more loose than they are on Megatron. I don't know if that's mold degradation or if that's just a case of these two individual copies I have, but just be aware that the joints on the wings are a lot more loose on Galvatron than they are on Megatron. They don't actually lock into place, it's friction holding them there, but Megatron's wings are able to do it much more successfully than Galvatron's do, so just be mindful of that. So for the final proverbial question of the review, do I recommend getting the Core Class Energon Galvatron and adding it to your Transformers collection? I only recommend getting it if you're a fan of Galvatron, if you're a fan of Core Class action figures, and if you're a fan of the Transformers Energon series. If you're a fan of only one or just two of those three things, then I'd say this figure would be an easy pass. The main selling point for this figure is that, unlike Energon Megatron, this is the only Core Class figure of Galvatron that's been released so far. There's been no announcements on Generation 1 Galvatron being made into a Core Class figure, so it's a stretch of the imagination imagining Generation 1 and Megatron upgrading into Energon Galvatron. But if you collect Core Class size Transformers figures, then the main selling point is that this is currently the only Core Class Galvatron figure that's out there. So that's pretty much what it's got going for it. I apologize for not covering the robot mode articulation, but I kind of did that in my review of Megatron. There's the purple Decepticon logo. I forgot to show that off earlier. It is a slightly darker shade of purple, but if you were to look at Galvatron from a distance, you probably won't be able to see it, so I kind of wish they would bring... I said this in my review of... I believe it was... I can't remember if it was Metal Hawk or if it was Thundertron or Sentinel Prime, but I kind of wish they would bring back the outline frames for faction symbols just so it would be easier to make them out. Especially in cases like this where it's a purple Decepticon logo on a purple background. And having either a white or silver outline for the faction symbol makes it much easier to spot. And for an alt mode like this, which is a Cybertronian spaceship, the Transformers character is not really trying to be a robot in disguise, so it doesn't matter if the faction symbols barely is almost hidden, so you can't so I think that's just a minor nitpick for me, but it's one that I think could help the figure out a lot. And again, just like Energon Megatron, the nose cone is completely hollowed out, same thing with the back of the head, so you can unfortunately joke that just like Energon Megatron, Energon Galvatron is brainless. I wish they would have at least not hollowed out the head sculpt, since they already did that with the nose cone. But all things considered, it at least just like the original Energon cartoon and original Energon Galvatron action figure, the Legacy United figure is a straight-up repaint of Energon Megatron. And as far as I can tell, there's no new sculpted detailing on it. Everything is the exact same. there aren't really too many differences in the joints except the wings being more loose. So yeah, it's accurate to the original Energon line in the fact that it's a straight up repaint, no newly sculpted parts whatsoever. So yeah, again, I only recommend getting this figure if you're a fan of the Unicron trilogy, if you're a fan of Galvatron, and you're a fan of Core Class Transformers. Again, the main selling point of this figure is that it's become the first and only Core Class sized action figure of Galvatron that's out there. I don't know if there's any third-party companies that have come out with Galvatron action figures that are only 3.5 inches tall like this figure is. But for me personally, I don't regret adding Energon Galvatron to my Transformers collection. Even if you don't have Energon Megatron as a standalone figure, this version of Galvatron, while the robot mode design and the vehicle mode design are not accurate to Generation 1 Galvatron, at least in robot mode, the paint job's kind of accurate to G1 Galvatron. So thank you guys all so much for watching. This has been the TFN Geek, and until next time, you guys, please remember to stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you to all my friends and subscribers for your continued support, and until next time, you guys, transform and roll out. Goodbye, everyone.